Want to work for Beyoncé and Jay-Z? Staying in shape, being bilingual, and signing a strict nanny rulebook are just a few extreme rules they'll demand from you. Is the pay worth the stress? Decide for yourself while we go over all of this and more. Starting off with the no eye contact rule. Staff members are reportedly forbidden from making direct eye contact with Beyoncé or Jay-Z. It was reported that when Beyoncé was in Jamaica alongside her husband for a video shoot, the Jamaican staff that were hired for the shoot were deeply dismayed when they were instructed by Beyoncé's management team that the rules included not looking at Beyoncé. The hired staff were happy for the opportunity, but many said upon leaving the shoot, they were no longer fans of the singer. I'm not surprised. Next up, specific food requests. Beyoncé allegedly demands a specific type of water with precisely 7.4 pH levels, and it was reported that she needed $900 worth of titanium drinking straws for it, and it had to be served at exactly 21 degrees. There is also a rule that Beyoncé's chicken must be seasoned with garlic powder or she just won't eat it. She will only eat it if it's baked and seasoned with garlic powder, a little bit of salt, black pepper, and cayenne pepper. Now the trick, apparently, is to heavily season her chicken and only give her the breast, legs, and wings. Now, on the side of her plate, staff members also have to include some broccoli, spinach, and green beans. So this girl really loves her greens. Aside from her pH water, she will also only drink Pepsi products, which is probably why we've only seen her do Pepsi commercials. Staff also have to remember to make sure she has lemon wedges and hot tea. As long as the staff doesn't forget to chill half her water bottles, everything should be fine. Confidentiality agreements. This shouldn't really be a surprise as most celebrities will have this in place, but Beyoncé and Jay-Z tell all their staff that they must be able to, quote unquote, keep a secret. All staff are required to sign NDAs to maintain the couple's privacy, and not following that rule could actually have very serious consequences. The staff are also not allowed to complain about their role or their personal life in any shape, way, or form. Now, Jay-Z has told employees and staff that while they are on the job, there is not to be any talk about their personal lives. While working, everything should remain strictly business. It was reported that he even said, "There's too much work to focus on and you'll never get anywhere by complaining." They have both made it very clear that they will cut you off immediately, staff, friend, or even family. Another strict rule in place for their staff is that staff members are not allowed to work with Kimye, being Kim Kardashian and Kanye West. Now, a few years ago, drama ensued between Jay-Z and Kanye. The wives seem to somehow get in the mix too. Now, both rappers have been known to go back and forth at times, but up to this point, they had always mended their relationship. That is not exactly what happened here though. Jay-Z sees Kanye West as a younger brother, but once he crossed the line and brought Bey into it, Jay was not having it. Kanye got on stage during one of his performances and basically made a shout out to Jay-Z saying he should call him after all this time. Then he went further by calling out Beyoncé for not performing beside him at the 2016 MTV Video Music Awards. Since then, the couple has had nothing to do with Kanye West and his wife, Kim Kardashian, well, ex-wife. Although Beyoncé and Kim have never been friends, throughout the years, they've both been accused by the media of throwing shade at each other. When Kanye proposed to Kim Kardashian, the Carter family were nowhere in sight. Slowly, they began to separate themselves from Kimye, and they expect staff to do the same as well. Sometimes celebrity staff will work with multiple celebrities, and Beyoncé and Jay-Z don't mind as long as it's not Kim and Kanye, or any other celebrities they may feud with. Another strict rule in place is that all staff must read and sign the ultimate nanny rulebook for their children. Beyoncé has a specific rulebook that she makes each nanny read. By the way, there are 6 nannies for the twins and 2 for Blue when needed. This rulebook includes how she wants her children to be taken care of. Beyoncé, of course, wrote the rulebook herself. Why would she follow anyone else's advice, right? A few of the rules and duties of the nannies include mowing their lawn, putting their purses on the floor, not countertops, which honestly would be a deal breaker for me because if you know anything about superstitions, you know that is really bad luck. And also they have to take out the trash. Now, for the twins, each nanny works in a span of 8-hour shifts around the clock. When Blue Ivy was younger, she required 3 nannies as well, but now that she's older, they've employed 2 instead of 3. And to branch off of this, Blue Ivy must have 3 bodyguards for school, no questions asked. So Blue Ivy's entourage includes 2 drivers and 3 bodyguards bodyguards. And when it comes to the twins, they are not allowed to nap to music. Beyoncé feels the music, even if played quietly, could distract their sleep and cause them to have bad sleeping patterns. And speaking of nannies, another strict rule is the bilingual rule. All nannies have to be bilingual, preferably in French. Now, according to a source who's in with the Carter family, Beyoncé and Jay have said that the nannies they employ have to be happy to travel the world with the Carters. I am mad at that, to be honest. I mean, who would be, right? And the other main stipulation, though, is that they have to be bilingual. This source said they want a French speaker for a number of reasons. The family have a real connection with France, and Beyoncé's nephew Jules is a French speaker because his dad is French. Now, on Larry King Live back in 2007, before Blue Ivy was born, Beyoncé was asked if she spoke another language since she recorded some songs in Spanish. Beyoncé said, "I sure don't. I don't speak French either. I learned it phonetically and we took one sentence at a time. I just spoke the lyrics over and over and over again and then put the melody to it." Beyoncé made it clear that she wants Blue, Rumi, and Sir to excel in life. So being bilingual is one of the dreams she has for all of her children. Now, another big rule is absolutely no photography. Staff members are not allowed to take photos of Beyoncé, Jay-Z, or their children, whether they're at home or not. Beyoncé has also restricted photography at her concerts and on her tours, including banning professional photographers and limiting the photos media outlets can actually use. Back in 2013, Beyoncé banned professional photographers from her Mrs. Carter Show World Tour. Instead, her management company provided media outlets with a limited number of pre-approved photos taken by her tour photographer. Now, this led to news outlets relying on amateur and paparazzi photos, which were often taken from a distance and in very poor lighting. Some photographers have gone on the record to say that Beyoncé's no photo policy is threatening the First Amendment, and the National Press Photographers Association had a problem with that, saying, "It seems these days everyone is trying to control their own content. Eventually, if you have all the artists doing this, everything is going to be more controlled and less free. The whole idea of photography is seeing is supposed to be believing." Of course, Beyoncé nor any of her representatives responded when asked questions about the policy, and it's still unclear whether or not news outlets actually have to pay to use the 4 to 10 photos available after each of her shows. But let it be made very clear, not one of those photos of Beyoncé will show even one hair out of place or even a blink in her eye, okay? So moving on, we have the workout rule. Now, Beyoncé's staff are absolutely not allowed to bother her while she's working on her body. Beyoncé's fitness routine was very demanding after she had the twins. As soon as her body healed up, it was off to the gym, sometimes 3 times a day. Now, a source told E! News that she did SoulCycle several times a week as soon as she got the clearance after her C-section. Now, she also worked out with a trainer at home doing cardio, intervals, and weights. Now, this source actually went on to explain all of her meals and diet were overseen by a private chef on staff who travels with them and prepares everything specifically for her. While Beyoncé is busy getting her body back, her nannies are only allowed to bother her if it's an absolute emergency. If they bother her or disrupt her workout session, consequences could include a fine or worse, like dismissal. And to piggyback off of that last one, another strict rule is that all staff or their children must stay in shape since their kids have demanding schedules. Now, this one isn't very surprising, and this isn't a, discriminatory thing or anything like that. It's just a preference Beyoncé has, knowing that the women pushing through crowds with her will have to be able to keep up. It's very common for nannies to go MIA due to health issues, and that is something Beyoncé just can't have happen. It takes so much time to find, process, and acclimate a new hire, so it's best that each caretaker is in its prime or in their prime health. Now, though Beyoncé has 6 nannies looking after Rumi and Sir, they are with her all day, so while she's busy, she can still be a part of what's happening. Anyone who isn't in tip-top shape or excellent health won't even be considered for the job. I mean, honestly, each nanny gets paid like a minimum of $100,000 a year. I would stay in shape for that kind of money too, am I right? On the topic of money, it's no secret the Carters have a lot in the bank, and while they pay their nannies and staff pretty well, it is reported, however, that bonus money must be earned. Jay-Z gave all of his employees $50,000 right before Christmas one year. But that's not all. Jay-Z also gave them Christmas gifts as well. Combined, it's even reported that throughout the year of 2013, the couple gave staff up to $4.6 million in bonus money and gifts. If they live the lavish life, of course, maybe they want their staff to be a part of that too. Now, Beyoncé and Jay-Z have 80 employees across the board, so that's a lot of staff, so of course a lot of money too. But employees are, however, expected to follow every single one of the rules, no matter how ridiculous they may seem. If even one is not followed, you can expect to not get a bonus. You may not get canned or fired for it, but you won't get something extra around Christmas time or at the end of summer. Jennifer Lopez has been accused of setting strict rules and making extreme demands from her staff, which has earned her a reputation as a certified diva. Some are so ridiculous, I had to triple check what I was reading to make sure I read it right. First, let's talk about her no eye contact rule. Lopez reportedly instructed staff at a luxury hotel and her own home not to make eye contact with her. An anonymous insider actually came out with a statement that read, "A friend of ours worked lighting backstage at one of her concerts. All of the workers were strictly instructed, do not look at Miss Lopez. There is to be no eye contact." Another person spoke out as well, saying, "I never heard anyone share a pleasant story about working with Jennifer Lopez." Another person spoke out as well, saying, "I never heard anyone share a pleasant story about working with Jennifer Lopez. One of my friends worked on set with her and the eye contact thing is true, lol." Another person said, "I knew people who worked at Mohegan Sun and they were instructed to totally avoid eye contact with J Diva. They still laugh about her to this day because far bigger celebs have appeared there that have been far more gracious and friendly." This of course has sparked outrage and has only further damaged her reputation. It's 2024, like in this intense social media era we're in, like it's so difficult to keep a positive image. So you would think she would work like a little harder to make sure allegations like this come with maybe 1 or 2 max stories from people claiming to have experienced this with her. I guess she's so unbothered to not tone down her diva-isms at all. JLo also is known to have strict rules around people talking directly to her. So it's bad enough that like no one can look her in the eye, but what does that matter if no one is allowed to even say hi, bye, or ask a simple question? Allegedly on a flight a while back, one flight attendant asked the star if she would like to drink something during her flight. JLo didn't even look at him. Instead, she turned to her personal assistant and said, "Please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and lime." Now, you'd think in the comfort of her own home, she would loosen up a little bit. Nope. She apparently once had her house renovated and had the workmen follow ridiculous rules. Reportedly, they couldn't approach her or even start a conversation with her. And yes, you guessed it, they were also forbidden to make eye contact. Man, JLo like really does not like people looking at her. It's kind of weird considering her whole life and career revolves around people watching her. Jennifer also is known to have huge lists of demands she sends to the hotels that she stays at. So she always demands to have like the entire floor booked out for her, roses on her bed, and a very specific brand of candles. I think I demanded that maybe like once for my birthday. I still didn't get it. Ouch. She even once requested a private beach for a hotel that simply did not have private beaches. So like, huh? And like, get this, she requests diamond encrusted headphones always, like in order to draw out sounds, which I totally get, but do the diamonds like help with that? Or I don't know. She also allegedly demands that her entire dressing room always be fully white, including the sofas, and her staff basically suffer the most though, because their list of demands are so insanely long they have to be on call like 24/7 to cater to her every need. She demands that her grapes be seedless, her M&Ms plain, and only wants chocolate chip cookies. Her hotel rooms must be cooled to like a precise 80 degrees with 2 oscillating fans, and she always needs a private jet, helicopter, and custom-made speedboats. JLo has even gone on the record saying, "I'm looking for a hard worker, a worker that isn't afraid to work 24 hours a day." Her staff typically have so many tasks that they don't even have time to eat, and it's even alleged that as punishment, JLo has made her staff do like really unnecessary errands such as like fetch KFC buckets. That's just like so strange to me. Like, okay, sure, I'll go get a 10-piece and a Pepsi, no problem. Allegedly, she even took back large tips given to her staff if she felt they didn't like comply with all her rules and demands. JLo has gone on record saying she worked harder than anyone she knows. And while that may be true, maybe, it like still doesn't give her the right she thinks she has to believe she's better than anyone else or that no one deserves respect. Now, I am like a serious candle lover, so I can really appreciate JLo having a favorite scent or like only wanting to buy from one specific place. Like me personally, I'm not that picky, but if I was a millionaire, maybe yeah, I'd buy out like every Bath and Body Works crisp linen or sun-drenched linen candle that they have on their shelf because I love it that much. But here's something really interesting. If you actually Google Jennifer Lopez candles, you get a bunch of results for the singer's own range of candles, but they're not actually available to buy. And she demands that every single hotel she goes to must include lime blossom or Jo Malone grapefruit scented candles only. JLo's arrival basically like paralyzes the entire hotel staff with fear, because if her suite isn't awaiting her with lime blossom or grapefruit scented candles, she will quite literally lose her mind. And yeah, just one of those candles actually retails for about $500, so excuse me while I cry and pour. And this next one is a little bit more ridiculous. So aside from her demanding that her like $50,000 a night suite has soft baked chocolate chip cookies, sour cream and onion chips, fresh fruit platters, and like very specific scented candles, JLo also demands she has a bowl of Planters sunflower seeds. Now that sounds like simple enough, right? No. Because if even one of those seeds lacks a shell, she will have a total meltdown. Every single sunflower seed that's in her bowl has to have a shell. And so she may actually throw the bowl at the wall or at the person that dished it out if it doesn't have a shell. So that's pretty scary. Now, I'm not a super walker, runner, etc. Like I don't like to hike, none of that stuff. And I quite honestly will pay for convenience if I can. So yes, I use ride sharing apps quite frequently, but JLo takes convenience to like a next level. And considering JLo seems to have an abundance of energy and stamina, you see all her workout videos, you would think like a 3-block walk would be manageable for her. Apparently not. Because when JLo was staying in London, she made 7 limousines escort her for a 3-block journey to lunch at the Dorchester Hotel. Now, like, this is so absurd to me because, and I have so many questions, because not her claiming she loves working out and walking, and that's what makes her happy, but then refuses to walk like a few blocks. I just don't get it. This next staff demand is equally as alarming as the other ones I've discussed. Of course, you know that most celebrities associate the color white with success, so we've already talked about how JLo demands like an all-white dressing room with white couches and white candles to match, but it's also been reported that she forces her entire entourage to wear white as well. And no, not just like shoes and bow ties. I'm like talking head to toe, covered in white everything all the time. Like she apparently just sends out memos to her entire staff that simply says, wear all white. And that's not just for tours, it's like for everything. She even gave birth to her twins in an all white fur coat. JLo is apparently a huge fan of sports hydration drinks like Gatorade. What she doesn't like, however, though, is not having them served to her at like the precise temperature she dictates. It's been reported that Jennifer's hotel room bar requirements include a strict setup of regular Coke, Diet Coke, caffeine-free Coke, lemon wedges, honey, and Gatorade. But the Smart Water and Fruit Punch or Orange Gatorade must be available at both very specific room and refrigerated temperatures. Okay, I know I mentioned the whole like plain M&Ms thing earlier, but I want to circle back to this one only because on a second thought, it has dawned on me just how funny this really is. Like, do you guys remember the movie The Wedding Planner with Matthew McConaughey? It was honestly one of my favorite rom-coms. I've watched it too many times to count, but if you haven't watched it, there's basically one scene where Matthew tells JLo that like brown M&Ms are healthier than the other colors because chocolate is already brown, and she takes that and like runs with it because you'll see her picking out every other color of M&M at some point in the movie. Well, it's like she took that advice in real life and also ran with it, because she apparently freaks out on staff if the wrong kind of M&M is left out and it's not just the plain ones in a bowl. Like, yes, she takes her nutrition very seriously, we know that, but like who's gonna tell her that every M&M in a pack has the same nutritional value as the plain brown ones? Now, if you're not already a bit turned off by all of her crazy demands, just hold on, I got another one for you. It is alleged that she insists her hotel rooms be playing music. Cool, no problem. But not just any music, like her music. And I get it, you like your own music, like you have some big tracks. I'm a fan of a few songs of her too, but like why are you wanting to hear your songs only? I just don't get it. And I just know a speaker hates to see J-Lo coming.
To me, this was outrageous. Asking such a personal question of, has he ever been intimate with someone on live television? We can clearly see in the video as well, as soon as she asks that question, he becomes extremely uncomfortable by it, taking in a sharp breath from being caught off guard like that. Like most people, you'd see that reaction and you would move on from the topic. But not Oprah, apparently. She eggs him on saying, I just want to know, I want to know. Why? Why do you want to know about this man's personal life so badly? What really aggravates me about this is that throughout the beginning of the clip, you can see what she's hinting at, and then finally hits Michael with a blow by saying this sentence specifically as, I'm gonna ask you this, and it's embarrassing for me to ask you this, but I'm gonna ask you anyway. So you stopped yourself at the beginning, we can see the wheels turning in your head, and yet you proceeded to continue onwards with it. Michael was very respectful with the situation, saying that he was a gentleman, explaining that sure, he may be old-fashioned, but to him it's something that's kept private. After clearly avoiding the question multiple times, she says in this disappointing tone, so you're not gonna answer it. Do you usually ask all the celebrities who come onto your show about their personal lives like that? Continuing to go down this Oprah rabbit hole, I've noticed there have been patterns where it doesn't seem like Oprah appreciates being contradicted or isn't able to grab what she really wants out of people from their interviews. From watching these interviews thus far, she cleverly does this in a way where she doesn't outright say, no, you need to be saying this. But you can tell in her body language and in the tone of her voice that she is trying to persuade you somewhere else. I love That's So Raven growing up, and she had done an interview as well with Oprah. Raven clearly shows that she doesn't want anything to do with labels in terms of preference when it comes to dating and even identity when she claims herself as only American and not African American. Oprah then jokingly goes, oh girl, don't set up the Twitter on fire, then proceeds to go, stop the tape right now, as they're both laughing. No harm there, right? Is Oprah agreeing with her maybe? The interview takes a bit of a turn, however, as once again, Oprah is egging her on a little bit here going, you know you're gonna get a lot of flack by saying you're not African American. To which Raven reiterates she doesn't label herself as such. Watching Oprah's body language here is interesting, as she's constantly shifting around a little uncomfortably now that this topic is out there. It seems her interest has peaked. Her tone changes a little as well, not so much demanding her, but with a very stern tone she goes, so I want you to really say what you really mean by that. It's very subtle, but specifically with the emphasis on mean, made me revisit the interview from a different perspective. Raven says what she means, so I'm personally not understanding what Oprah here isn't understanding. This last story is a bit of a long one, but I promise you it's worth it. Those of you who are artist performers watching this right now, please raise your hand if you've ever been told the phrase, you'll be paid in exposure. Because I sure have, and exposure doesn't buy me eggs and milk at the grocery store. That's exactly what happened with this performer, Revolva, who's a multidisciplinary artist that specializes in hula hooping, circus acts, as well as her own writer and character performer. Revolva titles the story An Open Letter to Oprah. The Life You Want asked me to work for free. The title alone already hooked me, as I was shocked to see that people who would be performing alongside the Oprah were getting absolutely nada from it. Revolva starts her letter by explaining the sheer excitement she was experiencing at how her life was about to change for the better. I've always wanted to hear, welcome Revolva, as I cartwheeled on stage. And the majority of us have experienced that sort of ambition when brought into a new performing opportunities that may boost your career. The woman was so ready to have her story told, to do the things she loved to do and finally get paid for it. Then I tell you my story. The profundity of all my lingering student loan debt causing you to weep and then declare to America that I am your new BFF. Revolva goes on to explaining that she had been within this industry for 12 years, wanting to make even the slightest splash out there, wanting to break free from the toxic culture of performance industry and showcase herself from what feeds her soul. As Revolva was speaking with ecstasy and euphoria, the poor woman was immediately shot down as the conversation with Oprah's producer continued. They stated, okay, just to be clear, you'd be on the stage outside of the event. And you know, just to be clear, Oprah will not be on that stage. Oh, and just to be clear, this isn't a paid gig. This feels like an entirely different set overall. If these local performers are going to be on a completely separate stage and Oprah is on the other one, who's going to be in the audience? Also, might I add, Revolva states that tickets for the show ranged from $99 to $999. You're one of the biggest influencers in the world, to which I'm sure you'd be having quite the audience turn up. Why aren't these performers getting paid? I don't watch Oprah, but I'm also well aware of the classic video of look under your chair for a gift or surprise. But I guess it's easier to do that in a smaller audience where giving out those gifts would be like buying a cup of coffee for you. Revolva even comments, featuring trailblazers who never have to dig through every compartment in their car for enough change to cross the Bay Bridge would be ringing up the local performers asking them to do their job for no pay. But hey, apparently she would receive a free ticket to the performance as well. Sorry, but an Oprah Winfrey ticket just doesn't cut out for apartment rent. Revolva would have understood the situation better if she was the one to call and ask about performing, but she wasn't. Oprah Winfrey's producer called her, thinking they would just bend over backwards for them. Everyone else was apparently getting paid though, high-end performers and all the tech and sound crew to make sure you look and sound good, right? I feel for this creator deeply as someone who used to fall prey into performing for free. However, Revolva stood her ground and actually stated she wanted some sort of pay before continuing. This was a prior agreement of having travel costs reimbursed, but that was it. And when Revolva took her right to ask for a proper payment, she was told that the acts were now fully booked and would be reached out in the future for any other opportunities. Revolva took this experience as a spiritual learning lesson, but was still proud of herself for sticking true to her art and values. Sometimes you really got to look into the hidden details of it when it comes to brain-flipping tactics that some people will do, especially when it comes to live television.
Now J-Lo has the craziest demands when she performs, and I honestly can't believe that people still hire her. In January of 2016, she began her residency in Las Vegas with her concert series All I Have. She signed a 3-year contract to perform roughly 120 shows a year at Planet Hollywood's Access Theater. Now J-Lo made $350,000 for each show, and she performed 3 times a week. Now that is a ton of money. However, this salary didn't seem to be enough for the diva, as she wanted more. Eventually, she signed, and in 3 years from 2016 to 2018, her residency brought in over $100 million. Now during its run, the All I Have residency was a tourist favorite. But besides wanting more money, she also made other demands in regards to her contract. She requested 3 penthouse suites all next to each other, a playground in her suite for her kids, and she also demanded a personal laundry service and for each room to have its own on-call butler wearing all white. Now the housekeeping staff had to sign full disclosure agreements to ensure that they didn't spill any of her secrets. Now she requested brand new toilets for the backstage area and an all-white dressing room. Yep, an all-white dressing room. Now, when she appeared on the British television show Top of the Pops in the late 90s, it was said that she refused to perform unless her dressing room was completely redecorated. It's alleged that J-Lo demanded that everything had to be white or she wouldn't go on stage. Now, this seems to be a theme because it was reported that while attending a recording session for the African AIDS charity single What's Going On in 2002, she submitted her standard to her writer, which demanded a 40-foot trailer furnished all in white from top to bottom. Flowers, tablecloths, drapery, couches, candles, everything. Love don't cost a thing, says Gary Sussman at Entertainment Weekly, but being a diva sure can be expensive. And you know what? He's right. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger was a huge actor, but it seems like he really needed to be persuaded to return to Terminator 3. Now, in order for him to do the film, the filmmakers had to agree to a contract that contained some pretty wild stipulations. First of all, Arnold would receive a $29.25 million pay or play fee, which essentially meant that the actor would get paid even if the film never got made. And let me just say, that's such a specific number, which is just so strange to me. Now, he would also be given an additional $1.6 million for every day of shooting that ran over the planned 19-week schedule. Added to the contract was his perk package, which included certain flamboyant conditions such as $1.5 million for private jets, a special trailer which was just a gym, 24/7 limousines, personal bodyguards, and a 3-bedroom suite on location. Now, they agreed, and in the end, the film made $43 $3.4 million, so I guess complying with the demands was actually a good thing. While Ben Affleck was filming the film Gone Girl, he got into an argument with director David Fincher over a hat. Yes, you heard that right, a hat. Now Ben is into his sports big time and he loves the Red Sox. Now due to this, he got into a dispute with the director of Gone Girl, which paused production. When David Fincher asked him to wear a Yankees cap while evading recognition in a scene, it was simply something Ben couldn't do. Ben spoke about this saying, "I said, David, I love you, I'd do anything for you, but I will not wear a Yankees hat. I can't wear it because it's going to become a thing, David. I will never hear the end of it, I can't do it, and I couldn't put it on my head," Ben said. Now you'd think this would be a pretty easy thing to resolve, but apparently not. The two butted heads for 4 whole days before they could reach a compromise, when they finally agreed that a Mets cap would suffice. Now on the argument, David had this to say: "I really wanted it to be a Yankees cap, but being from Boston and not being very professional as an actor, Ben refused to wear a Yankees cap. I mean, it did not come to blows, but we had to shut down production for 4 days." Yeah, that is just insane and so unprofessional, and personally, I wouldn't want Ben on my set after that. Now, when the show New Girl came out, starring Zooey Deschanel, it was a massive hit, and the artist Prince was a fan. Now he enjoyed the show so much that he reached out to request a cameo. Well, this came a reality during season 3, but there was a catch: no Kardashians. This became a bit tricky for the production team because they'd actually already invited 2 members of the Kardashian family to come and film scenes for the same episode as attendees of Prince's party. Lamorne Morris, an actor on the show, spoke of the incident, recalling Prince actually seeing the 2 Kardashians, Khloe Kardashian and Kris Jenner. Prince shows up early, he's sitting in Video Village and he's watching the screen and he goes, "What are the Kardashians doing here?" They said, "Well, they're in the show, they've been invited to a Prince party." And he goes, "They would never be invited to a Prince party." So they cut him from the episode. I guess Prince gets what he wants, and that's no Kardashians. But I mean, I can't blame him though, because on Prince's Welcome to tour, he invited Kim Kardashian on stage with him. Now he then immediately began dancing around her, and for those of you who don't know, Kim hates dancing, so why she agreed to go up on stage, I don't know. She then laughed nervously while standing in place and clapping for him, before Prince instructed her to get off my stage. Now Kim later discussed the incident during an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, where she told Ryan Seacrest, "I was so nervous, I was just like laughing. To my defense, like, didn't Prince watch Dancing with the Stars? Like, I'm not a good dancer." Marlon Brando is an amazing actor who was held in high regard, so he essentially was able to get away with whatever he wanted to on set. This was the truth when it came to the film The Island of Dr. Moreau. Brando's behavior added a lot of chaos to the set, as he would mostly just stay in his trailer eating copious amounts of pizza and not opening the door to anyone. While he did come out and shoot some scenes, he insisted doing things his way, which included him wearing all white face paint, wearing a dress, and having an ice bucket strapped to the top of his head. He also got very attached to actor Nelson De La Rosa, who was one of the shortest men of the last 2 centuries, measuring under 28 inches tall. Speaking about Marlon just doing whatever he wanted, director John Frankenheimer said, "Brando absolutely fell in love with this guy. He put him on his chest in the hammock and sang Frog went according to him. There was 90 minutes of that. This is all I can persuade Brando to do." Yeah, no, it's absolutely crazy that they let him get away with that. Now, during Madonna's MDNA tour, she had a lot of demands that were honestly just insane. She requested 20 phone lines in her dressing room so she could keep in touch with her loved ones no matter what. She was traveling with a 200-strong entourage, including 30 bodyguards, personal chefs, a yoga instructor, and an acupuncturist on the sold-out dates. She also had a portable dry cleaner and had asked for her space space to be decorated with lilies and roses, with their stems trimmed to exactly 6 inches, plus the area must be draped in a special fabric. Now her team had also removed the furniture from rooms and filled them with the singer's own property to give it a homely feel. A source told the Daily Star, Madonna has probably the longest list of requirements of any of the world's music stars. She expects things to be just right or it puts her off her stage show. And finally, this next point is crazy but also hilarious as it has to do with Jennifer Lawrence. While filming Mother, Jen requested her own personal Kardashian tent that had a computer playing Keeping Up with Kardashians. She explained why she needed the tent and what it was like. She said, I had to do this one scene and I hadn't gone that dark before. I'd never done something that horrifying. I started getting scared a couple days before, so I was like, I need a tent to keep away from all the extras because I didn't know what I would do. It was just a computer that was playing the Kardashians and had headshots, and it also had notes to me from them that I had written. I mean, hey, whatever helps you. And Jen actually ended up becoming friends with the Kardashians afterwards, which is pretty cool. Now, no Virgos are allowed to work with her. And yes, I'm talking about the zodiac sign, which is just insane, right? Now, how do we know this? Well, someone spilled the beans. Heather Morris got her big break on Ryan Murphy's Fox series Glee, but before that she was a backup dancer for celebrities, and she had quite a run-in when auditioning for J.Lo. In 2022, she said, Jennifer Lopez held an audition for dancers for one of her tours, and this was years ago. She said during an appearance on the Just Sayin' podcast. Most of the time at dance auditions, you're not getting paid. You've been there since 10 a.m. and you're auditioning until 6 p.m., she said. People judging you the whole time. And according to Heather, who said she heard the story from multiple people, J.Lo came in at the end of the long day and thanked the dancers. She walked into the room and said, thank you so much, you guys have worked so hard. By a show of hands, if there are any Virgos in the room, can you just raise your hands? And J.Lo apparently saw the raised hands, whispered to her assistant, and dismissed the Virgos. They had to leave after a full day of auditioning, Heather said. Now, what does J.Lo have against Virgos? Who knows, but there is one Virgo that J.Lo, who is a Leo, definitely didn't get along with, which was her ex-husband Mark Anthony, who was born on September 16th. So hey, if you're a Virgo, here's some advice. Don't try to work for J.Lo because you will not get the job. Now, another rule that has to do with Mark Anthony is that J.Lo will not have any female flight attendants on her flights. They all have to be men. Why? Well, apparently Mark Anthony cheated on her with one of their female flight attendants, so J.Lo banned them. She hates flight attendants because her ex-husband Mark Anthony had an affair with one when they were married, an anonymous source has revealed. Now, several corporate flight attendants came forward and revealed that Jennifer does not allow female associates to work on her flights. A private attendant confirmed this rule, saying, J.Lo won't let female flight attendants work. She brings her own male attendant who is not a flight attendant, but a personal assistant. Then another stewardess had this to say, after completely taking out everything in the drawers to fill them with all her preferred items, I was told I had to fly home because she didn't want a female flight attendant, only to have to come back and Uber to the airplane and reset my items because it was a one-way flight. Now, she also hates it when service workers look or speak to her. One time, a flight attendant offered her a drink and she refused to acknowledge him. She said to her assistant, please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and lime. Then in 2012, reports surfaced that she demanded that staff working for her make no eye contact or speak with her. While having work done on her San Fernando Valley home, she demanded that none of the helpers, drivers, or contractors have any interactions with her. In 2022, a girl named Kayla posted a TikTok saying that her dad worked for a company that J.Lo would hire for drivers, but apparently he had heard so many bad stories about the star that he never wanted to be her driver. It was said that J.Lo does not allow the drivers to look or talk to her, and she's also so strict that if the driver looks through the rear view mirror and makes eye contact with her, she will freak out. Not to mention, she has a crazy rule that her luggage cannot touch the ground. JLo demands that her staff make sure that everything in her dressing room is white. Yes, it seems like whenever JLo goes and performs, she needs her backstage area to be completely white and has a team to come in and make the changes for her. In 2022, speaking on her podcast, The 90s with Danny Minogue, the former X Factor judge shared a story of JLo making this crazy demand before performing on Top of the Pops over 20 years ago. According to Danny, the American entertainer apparently insisted that her entire dressing room was redecorated so that everything was white, even going so far as to refuse to go on stage if her wishes were not fulfilled. I was told everything had to be white, including the sofa. I asked to go in and see the room as she wasn't there in that moment. I was lapping up every detail, Danny said. All I could think was, girlfriend is covered head to toe in body makeup. How do you sit on a white couch? Danny recalled with a laugh. Now, it was then reported that while attending a recording session for the African AIDS charity single What's Going On in 2002, JLo submitted her standard tour rider, which demanded a 40-foot trailer furnished in all white from top to bottom, flowers, tablecloths, drapery, couches, candles, everything. Now, a leaked document also revealed that JLo's spaces must be painted entirely white, with white linens, drapes, furniture, and even candles, as long as they're Joe Malone's grapefruit or lime blossom scents. Now, why she chooses the color white, no one really knows, but it's so specific and she throws a fit if this isn't followed. Now, this isn't the only demand when it comes to her dressing room, as in 2010, it was reported that she wanted hanging mirrors for her makeup to be at a specific angle. "You mirror what the world mirrors you" remains one of Jen's most famous quotes, but what that means in this context, I don't really know, but it is just really strange. Then there's also the fact that JLo doesn't want her staff to have their own lives. She wants them to be at her disposal at all times. One famous example of this was when she had her twins Max and Emmy. She was looking for a nanny to take care of both kids, and while this is a lot of work in the first place, JLo wanted the nanny to work 16-hour days, which is honestly just outrageous. An insider told the National Enquirer, normally people who make huge sums of money and have loads of professional and social obligations hire a nanny for each child, especially for newborns. But it is as if Jennifer expects one nanny not to only take care of both twins, but to work 16-hour days, 7 days a week. Wow. Yeah, now unsurprisingly, the first nanny she hired left after just a week of working for her. Then the source said they hired a second nanny who was wonderful with the twins, but she could not take working such long hours without a break. So she quit after just a week as well. Now again, I can't really blame them, as that is an insane schedule. Not to mention that her staff have to make sure everything she wants when she's away from home, she gets. Now JLo has very specific food and beverage notes for the hotels she stays at. JLo's personal suite must include a coffee maker, hot water pot, toaster, microwave, and an oven, all set up before she arrives. She also wants her own plates, coffee mugs, thermos cups, and silverware. Not to mention, she must have at least 2 rooms, so one could be her wardrobe room, which must have 12 bottles of water in it. In January 2016, when she started her residency in Las Vegas, she signed a 3-year contract to perform roughly 120 shows a year at Planet Hollywood's Access Theater. Now, she made $350,000 for each show and performed 3 times a week. But this wasn't enough for her, and she had more demands. She requested 3 penthouse suites all next to each other. She requested a playground in her suite for her kids, and she also demanded a personal laundry service and for each room to have its own on-call butler wearing all white. The housekeeping staff had to sign full disclosure agreements to ensure they didn't spill any of her secrets, and she requested brand new toilets for the backstage area, and then again an all-white dressing room. Now, starting off, she is super controlling of her image, and her staff must make sure that she appears the way she wants to be portrayed at all times. Now, it's said that Ariana reportedly approves all fan photos and that her staff must enforce this rule. But in 2014, when a fan won a contest to meet Ariana through MTV, things didn't go as they expected. Now, the father of the contest winners, Kelly, and her sister Jen spoke out about their experience on a blog, and it was not flattering. Now, Now, they had met Ariana once in 2011, but things had changed. The dad wrote of the experience. Jen, whom Ari had been so kind to in 2011, walked up and said, "Ari, here's a photo we took together in Vegas at the Titanic." Miss Grande glanced at the photo on Jen's phone and said, "Let's redo that picture." She said nothing else, so Jen retook the photo. Then Jen took out one of the drawings that won the contest for her. Kelly snapped a photo of her smiling little sister, giving Ariana the drawing. "Delete those pictures, please," was all Ariana said. "Can I just keep the one of my sister showing you the drawing?" asked Kel, and Ariana turned to her security and ordered, "Make sure she deleted those." Then Ariana Grande walked away from her prize-winning fans without even saying goodbye. The father went on to say that the MTV reps on scene seemed shocked by this, but did not know what to do. Now, that's such an unfortunate thing, but her wanting photos deleted may have to do with the fact that she only wants the left side of her face on camera. Yep, it seems like Ariana was a diva when it came to being on camera. Back in 2014, some of her photo shoots in Australia had been cancelled. Why? Well, it's alleged that Ariana's team had told photographer Chris Palvich to only shoot from the singer's left side and to use no natural light. But this wasn't what Chris envisioned, so Ariana apparently cancelled the shoot due to this. Now, according to a source, Ariana left the photo shoot after only a few minutes, claiming her outfit didn't photograph well in the images. Now, Ariana had also allegedly been checking each frame after it was taken and asking for shots she wasn't pleased with to be deleted. Now, Ariana denied this story during an interview in Australia, where she said it was just a photographer or something who got mad at me because I left to change my outfit mid-photo shoot because I didn't like my top. I was like, "Oh, I'll be right back," and then I came back and he had left. And then he came out and said all these ridiculous, untrue things about me, she continued. I was like, "That's not real, that's nonsense." And she then added, "My fans know who I am, my family knows who I am, my friends know who I am, and that's all that matters." But the angle of only getting her left side has been brought up multiple times, as also in 2014, TV personality and reporter Juliana Rancic claimed that Ariana was difficult to work with as she did an interview with her at the American Music Awards. She said that Ariana's team made her switch sides so Ariana could be filmed from her left side. She said, "She came up on the platform and normally I stand on this side, her left side to the camera. I had to fight 13 years to get this side to the camera, it's my good side. But I fought 13 years for this, okay? Little Ariana comes over, I feel like bing, elbow in my side, and I'm like, what's going on? And they push me to the other side," she said. "I feel like where there is smoke, there is fire," alleging that Ariana's team bullied and elbowed her to change positions. "It was like you either get on the other side or we don't do an interview." Now, it seems like Ariana is really enforcing this rule. Now, Ariana Grande demands that her staff make sure she gets special treatment wherever she goes. Now, this is extremely prevalent when she goes to amusement parks. TikTok users who have previously worked at theme parks or know someone who did have posted story times of their experiences with the star, and they are not good. I know we're all livid with Ariana Grande because of this Ethan Slater nonsense, but just know that you and I or anyone else will never dislike her as much as the Disney guest relation cast members, said a woman named Teresa Jack on TikTok. If you happen to know any plaids, aka the people who escort the celebrities, they will tell you that Ariana Grande is the rudest person that has ever graced the parks, Teresa shares. "I can't tell you how many of them I've met that will not guide her around the parks anymore." Now, according to Teresa, Ariana not only cuts the line to rides, but also shuts down the entire ride so she could have the building and the ride all to herself. Apparently, these shutdowns can take up to hours, and guests who are already waiting in line are kicked off. That's not normal celebrity behavior, Teresa says. And hey, I agree. Now, another worker, this time at Universal Studios, shared her experience with the star as well. A girl named Riley previously worked at Universal as a scare actor during the Halloween Horror Nights. One year, while she was waiting for guests where the line was over an hour long and it was a sold-out event, people stopped coming in. Then, all of a sudden, a group of bodyguards, Ariana Grande, and her dog came through, Riley revealed in a video. Ariana was being super rude to the team members, she was demanding free food, she was pissed off because they'd have to clear the house, then let her walk through, and she was being impatient because there had to be time to clear the guests out of the park so she could have her own experience going into the houses. Now, another employee who worked at Halloween Horror Nights shared a similar experience, saying, "My friend worked Horror Nights and she came through touching stuff, and my friend told her to stop and she told her, 'Do you know who I am?'" one TikTok user commented. "I heard that one house refused her because of how long the line was and she got so angry," another user shared. Yeah, no, that is just messed up. Then there are certain topics that are off limits when it comes to Ariana, and one is Mariah Carey. While Ariana has said in the past that she takes it as a huge compliment being compared to Mariah, interviewers are instructed to not bring her up. Now, other topics off the table include her past relationships, her grandfather who passed away in 2014, or her time on Sam and Cat, and specifically about her former co-star Jeanette McCurdy. Now, Ariana also really cares about her pets, and it's very important that her staff take care of them if she's unable to. Now, she has 9 dogs, and at one point she had a pig. Now, she loves them so much that she flies them with her on her private jet. In 2019, Ariana had been visiting Scotland for work and allegedly requested her dogs to be flown there as well. The dogs, who had been assigned their own room at the 2-bedroom apartment, were well looked after by a minder during their stay, a source told The Sun. As well as being offered personalized bone-shaped dog biscuits and furry bedding, they even got given tartan dog collars. Now, Ariana also makes sure that she has her own huge room when she's on set or backstage for events. While working on Nickelodeon's Victorious, she allegedly had the second largest dressing room after the main character, played by the actress Victoria Justice. But now that Ariana is a huge star, she demands the largest dressing room possible. Now, staff allegedly enter the room beforehand to make sure everything's perfect and stock it with food and drinks that she requires. Now, reportedly in 2014, Ariana turned a conference room into a dressing room for herself and demanded the hotel be cleared out before her arrival. According to an insider source, before she got here, she made security clear out the entire lobby. Even if you were a guest at the hotel, you had to clear out. No one could sit in the lobby, but she came in the back. She took up a unisex bathroom and put 2 bodyguards outside. Basically, 3,000 square feet of hotel space was hers, and you had to show your hotel key to get anywhere. Yeah, now that is just insane behavior and crazy demands.